Welcome, sisters, to another Return of the Priestess community interview. I'm really excited to introduce you today to Leslie Traub. I'll tell you just a little about her and then she can fill in a little more. And we've got an interesting topic today. So, first of all, our topic we're going to be talking about permission to be, rewiring our feminine essence. And we're going to look a lot at what that means to rewire. And now let me tell you a little about Leslie. So, Leslie and her husband owned a private consulting, organizational consulting business where they worked with corporate leadership, women in leadership, and diversity and inclusion for 30 years. And then they sold the business, and Leslie had to walk through firsthand what it takes to go from a really active and engaged entrepreneur in the leadership space into rewiring herself into being. So her story is really interesting. What she's doing now with women is really interesting and juicy. I think a lot of you are going to find this to be a relevant conversation. So, Leslie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Dawn. It's really very sweet to be here with you. Thank you for the intro. This is the first time I'm talking publicly in a space about this transition and about the work that I'm doing, and so I'm delighted to be sitting here with you.
Yeah, thank you. And we had that lovely talk last week and realized we had so much in common, and it's sort of uncanny, if you will, right from our roots in the East Coast, et cetera. So it's been a nice, resonant connection with you. So I
Thanks.
want to I want to dive in right away into rewiring because I feel like what this piece that you're bringing is significant for many of us, either presently or in the past or to come. For some of us, some of the younger women in the community who are still very much in their engaged, active years. So, yeah, dive in. Let's talk about rewiring. What do you mean by that? Why is that important?
Yeah, thank you so much. The concept of rewiring is about changing some of the patterns in our brain. Our life patterns, of course, we get grooved in our brains. They're called neuronal pathways that connect a stimulus and a response.
Mm,
And when we've had a very busy, doing filled life, and we're very active and activated, we develop patterns that may have served us at that point in our life. I was running a large business and serving clients and traveling and so on. And that in this point in my life, they don't serve me anymore, but the patterns are very deep. And
mm,
so when I talk about rewiring, I talk about applying the practices of regrooving pathways in our brain that move us specifically, in my case, from a very doing place to
mm-hmm,
one of more allowing and being.
mm,
And and it takes practice. There are a lot of practices that I use mostly from the world of positive psychology that allow us, for example, doing loving kindness meditations
mm,
is a way to prime ourselves towards, for me personally, towards sort of slowing down, allowing my heart to be open, taking in the world around me instead of working through my to-do list,
yeah.
which can be oppressive even though I don't have a job right now. I'm so accustomed to the superwomanness of my life, what my life had been, that I work very consciously to try to change the stimulus so that I can just stand in the unknowing of what life is providing me with instead of having to make things happen in a very masculine way, right?
Yeah.
Being in the world in a very masculine way. And what I'm on the cusp of now in my life is bringing more of an allowing in more of a, it's not easy when you have so many years of success, if you will, in the doing space. And
Yeah.
so I'm committed to helping other women in my age group, people who are going through transition, really learn the tools of just how to be more, just be more in our feminine.
Yeah, be more in our feminine. And that whole feminine leadership, this is what I feel like we're pushing the edges of now as a collective of women on a spiritual path, we could say. Uh, what is that? What is that energy? Because it's not the old model. And we're finding out and figuring out and remembering and exploring and experimenting. So, before we go into a little more about how you work with women, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your personal story. Like, did you sell your business and all of a sudden fall on your face? Did you how did this awareness come to you?
Mm, thank you for that question. First, conceptually, I cognitively know a lot about leading from the feminine. I taught it. You know, I would
Mm-hmm.
teach women's leadership and leadership development for both men and women, and talk about the importance of the feminine in how we approach our leadership. And it's challenging when you're confronted with actually, like, how do I bring that home? How do I bring that in? So we sold the business in 2018 and moved right into doing global leadership development workshops. So my husband and I took this work around the world for a few years until COVID happened.
Uh-huh.
And they weren't one on top of each other, but there was a fair amount of activity to bring people in and get them launched
Sure.
and debrief and do all that. So when COVID happened, that stopped. There was quite an abrupt stop. And there was more spaciousness in my life. And I was finding myself sort of waking up, geared up to move into doing. There was
Uh-huh.
nothing to do. And so this feeling of what is the word of cognitive dissonance is something that I've experienced quite a lot. You know, my body wants to do one thing, which is to be in action. My heart wants to do something else, which is to just rest and just create spaciousness so that I could receive whatever it is that's there for me to receive, which I don't even know about. And so what happened, there was actually a moment in here. I went to a wellness retreat in Mexico, and I met a woman who's my age who, I asked what she was going back to when she left the ranch, and she burst into tears and started listing, the volunteer engagements in the PTA and all the things that she was doing that she had no interest in, that was actually causing suffering in her heart. And I
Hmm.
said to myself, I never want to hear another woman my age, in my 60s, feeling like she's got to prove to the world that she has value.
Whoa.
And
Wow.
from there, I walked into a creativity workshop, and I sat with a songwriter and I created this workshop in 5 minutes. We'll bring together women. We'll look at how we can rewire our brains together. Because for me, being in community with other women is a much, it's, I don't know if easy is the right word. It's the container that allowed me to do my own thinking
Hmm.
about what my future looked like. And
Yeah.
I created this workshop called Rewiring Together because I needed it.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I needed the container of the feminine and the sisterhood and the magic that happens when you bring women together, who are in some sort of transition, and then we co-create the future.
Yes.
So that's
Beautiful.
how I got there.
Wow, I love that story. And the container of the feminine, I can really relate to this. This spring in May, I had the consecration of my temple here, and I had four sister priestess friends come who are all initiated in my priestess lineage. So they're all experienced with ceremony and leadership and leaders in their own right, in their own world, their own space. And it was a complete co creation. There was nothing preset in stone, and it was this beautiful, nurturing, stimulating, creative thing that wasn't about going and taking lots of action, but rather being in the presence with each other and allowing things to emerge. So it
Yes.
sounds like this is along the lines of The quality
It
of feeling,
it
the very.
is. It is along the lines, and that's the deep feminine is trusting for me. It's trusting that the guidance will be there when you need it.
Yeah.
And there's something about sitting with other women for me that grounds that trust more. Now, in
Yes.
terms of my own
Me
development,
too.
I think at some point, I may be able to just sit on my balcony and look at the cows and trust what comes in. But it's just, gosh, it's just more fun and juicy, and more magic happens in that way. And throughout my whole career, my most favorite thing was sitting in circles of women.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Beautiful. So I know you have some retreats there. Do you do things online as well, or?
I do not. I determined that this particular venture of rewiring was best done in person. I live on a farm in the Shenandoah Valley, about 85 miles from Washington, D.C.
Uh-huh.
And so I've got a beautiful space. There's nobody around here, to just really be in nature together.
Yeah.
And that was more important than reaching a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel you being in nature myself and not having
Yeah.
many people around, but there is something about that. So let's see if there's. I have some notes from our conversation last time. Oh yeah, we had talked about the queen archetype, and I thought that would be interesting to talk about because I think you and I may have a little bit of a different perspective on this. So would you share with us what when you think of this sort of queen energy, what that is for you?
So thank you for that. I found a piece written online. Interestingly enough, it was with a teacher who I did a year-long initiation with in 1996. So I was delighted her name is Sheila Foster. I was delighted to find this writing. The queen is an archetype. It's derivative of the Jungian archetype of the crone. And what I get from reading about the queen and an elevated, wholehearted queen is that she accepts life as it is without needing it to be any different, which is a very powerful stance, I think. I think that women my age don't have a lot of models for what it looks like to live fully and graciously at this point in our lives, because we're carrying forward all of the strategies we've used in our lives to be successful in whatever our venture was,
Right.
whether it was in the work world or the ceremonial world or the parenting world or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so to get to this point in life, I found it useful. I find it useful to have a little bit of a roadmap. And that's what the queen archetype, at least as conceptualized by Sheila Foster, does for me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's permission to be.
To be, yeah.
It's really permission to be, that the doing thing is done. We've accomplished as many things in the external world, which doesn't mean that we can't, quote, accomplish in our queen years, but there's a different way. There's not a striving.
Yeah.
Striving is more of a masculine energy for me.
Mm-hmm.
Allowing is much more of a feminine and a queenly energy. I allow life to unfold around me. It's not like I don't have any input,
Yeah.
but I'm more part of it instead of at the reins.
Yes. And we talked last time about guidance versus goals, like goals being more the masculine and guidance being we have to be in the being in order to receive the guidance to know what the next step or action or non action is.
Yes, so that's a great word. Let me riff off of that. So when I retired, I of course was in this question of what am I going to do?
Mm.
And I was looking at all the volunteer agencies, and there's got to be places around here I can give my time and go into mentoring and all that stuff. And what I realized is that I was just bringing forward into my life all of my doing strategies that I had employed for the last 30, 35 years of my career. And that what was really important to me is I give myself permission to not do anything. The non-doing that you just mentioned, because, and I also recognize that I do live in a quite a privileged world where I don't have to worry about making money to live the lifestyle I choose to live.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very real. And there are women my age who have to work,
Yeah.
and I don't, and I'm very cognizant of that, and I'm very grateful for that. So that when I talk about non-doing, I can really just not do anything,
Yeah.
because my survival is taken care of by all of my years of hard work.
Yeah.
So I had to give myself permission to be. And when I do the workshop on rewiring, I'm very clear with the participants that you're not coming here to get a new program of what to put into your life to do. That could very well be what drops in the
Uh-huh.
process of what we're doing. Or what could drop in is that I'm done with doing, and I don't need to work to secure my future. So what if I gave myself permission to just be?
Yeah. So this is what's coming up for me is I'm in a privileged position as well. Now I do need to work. I definitely need to work, and in fact, um, I'm in a little bit of a challenging situation financially, but nothing like it was before. And I have worked my ass off for years as well. But I do have more free time than a lot of people because I
Yeah.
have worked so hard for so long. And I've scheduled my life such that I can have, 3 hardcore work days and 4 days off.
Mhm.
And what I find really interesting is sometimes I feel this sense of like, I didn't do anything today. And is that bad? Or like guilt. I think it's guilt. Like I don't allow myself to go into complete unconsciousness about it, but I'm aware of this discomfort that arises for me around not having done something,
Yes.
pushed my business forward, done something on that day.
This is the cognitive dissonance that I'm talking about.
Mm,
We're so patterned to do, accomplish, cross things off our to-do list.
yes.
You
Yeah.
know, it's a way of being that for most people in the Western world starts when we go to kindergarten.
Yeah.
And we've got to get our homework done, and we've got to lay our clothes out the night before, whatever the tasks are
Hmm.
that we have to do to survive in life. But that's the imbalance of the masculine and feminine. As soon as we leave the home, if indeed we go out to go to school, we begin to pattern ourselves around accomplished doing goals, all of which is the masculine language.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm thinking now even about not when I was a kid, but nowadays, children go to kindergarten with their little backpacks and
Yeah.
their stuff, all this stuff, school stuff, whatever it is, books and yeah.
So we have to that's the why we have to rewire.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to I mean, I say we have to, I have to, I can feel my energy ramping up if I've got a lot of things to do, and it's like I go right back into my whatever 20, 30, 40, 50-year-old body to just get it all done. I mean, the question is, when you have an afternoon of free time, do you clean the closets, or do you take yourself and your dog out to the woods?
Right.
Right. And to remember that we have choice about this.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's an interesting thing because going out to the woods is something that I do and my community knows that. And even that, fascinatingly enough, has become a thing of like, I didn't go to the woods yet this week. What did I do with my free time? So this is the cognitive dissonance and the rewiring thing. I'm now feeling I'm really grokking it in this conversation, how deeply it's embedded in me.
And I know you use a lot of language around the patriarchy. This is an effect of the patriarchy on our lives.
Yeah.
And look, when you get to be, I'm 63 years old, you get to be 63 and you're looking forward. My parents are both in their 90s, right? I've got maybe, if I'm blessed, I have 30 years in front of me. And I can tell you, I don't want to be working my checklist for
Yeah.
these years. I want to experience the spaciousness that is available to me without feeling the guilt. That's the rewiring. It's going to feel uncomfortable for people as we seek to change our way of being. And if we have enough consciousness, we can get through the discomfort without reverting to the old
Yeah.
way of being. In the brain, the pain is much more of a strong signal than pleasure. So we want to
Right.
move away from the things that are comfortable, and it takes more consciousness to move toward the things that we would like more of in our lives.
Yeah, and when we've trained ourselves to do things, I know for myself, I was a young single mother and I went to university when my son was a little baby and then into his kindergarten. I think maybe first grade was my senior year for, his first grade was my senior year. So I was young and I was very overwhelmed and I started my checklist.
Yeah.
And I have had my checklists for 37 years. My son's 38. And it was a coping survival
Yeah.
mechanism to reduce my anxiety about
Mhm.
learning how to manage my life because I
Mm.
had too many things and I had them when I was 19, so I was young. I didn't have the skills. So the
Yeah.
rewiring, it's like the checklist becomes a security
Well,
blanket.
yeah. Which does not to say that it's a bad thing
Right.
to have a
No, no, no.
checklist. I need checklists.
Yeah.
I run a big household, and you know, I'm very busy, and I definitely, my checklists are sort of back of the envelope things, but nonetheless, I have to write things down. But the question is, do I have to do everything on the checklist before I take care of my soul?
Mm, yeah. And that's the balance of the masculine and the feminine
Yeah.
within.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's not about throwing the one out. It's really about reestablishing the balance that's been so
Yes.
off.
And what I believe needs to happen is that the pendulum needs to swing much more to the feminine, because that's how it comes back into stasis. We've been
Yeah.
over here for a long time, and we know that we tend to overcompensate when we need a change. And for all the reasons that you talk about with your community, and that I'm very familiar with all the prophecies and the time that we're in, I believe for myself that I need to over index on the feminine.
Over index on the feminine. Yeah. And for many of us, we are actually holding that field, that frequency for the collective because we're putting it into the collective field for
Yeah.
others to be able to access who are still with their heads down, busy doing, women and men.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The one of the prophecies that I'm familiar with is with the Creek people and the Baha'i, which believe that the prophecy is that the bird has only one wing at this point,
Yeah.
and that it that the and we can't it can't fly through. I don't know what I'm trying to say here about where it wants to fly, but it flies in circles if it only has
Circles.
one wing, and that we've overtaxed the masculine, not just in ourselves but in men. So men and women together, the whole system is off. And so
Yeah.
as we move more into our feminine, that's the whole collective moves more into the feminine.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah. So
all
it
of
really,
humanity needs to move more into the feminine, and is in some ways.
yeah. And this is really why we see so much of the rise of the divine feminine. It is essential, those of us who are in the female form, we are the emissaries, if you will, and it's essential for us to be the ones, not every single woman, but those who feel the call to do that, to lead into that as role model, again, as frequency holder, as leader of this rebalancing, and not from an angry, battling feminist. And I was trained as an angry, battling feminist. So, I was indoctrinated into that concept
Yeah.
and learned a lot, got a lot of value out of it,
Mm.
except that the model became the same. For my professors, getting tenure, rigorous intellectual debate, all of this masculine drive, getting published, all of that stuff. Wow, it was the same model. It was not the energy that actually needs to lead us forward, which is much softer.
Yeah.
Mm. Wow, this is a conversation that can certainly go on for a long time, but I want to be respectful of your time and everyone else's. So, just tell us a little bit more about your retreats, and then women can reach out to you in the community if they want to know more. But just like, do you have it very often? Do you have a lot of women? Kind of give us just a paint a little bit of a picture for us.
Yeah, sure. We cap at 10.
Uh huh.
We
Small and
cap at
intimate.
10. It's very small and intimate. I have a co-facilitator. It's very process oriented. There's not really any teaching. It's about being an inquiry with each other. It's got some structure to it, so that we look at aspects of our past that have served us and that no longer serve us.
Yeah.
And we have ways of we've got 6 ways that we rewire. They're all process rewiring
Ooh.
processes.
Okay.
We look at what the past has given us that we're grateful for and that wants to be acknowledged,
Always
because
important.
there's not enough of that.
Yeah.
We don't get to be acknowledged. And what's so interesting, Dawn, is that I thought people would talk about their accomplishments in this part of the workshop.
Mm.
Their PhDs and their
Yeah.
uh, their what all the things that we strive for. But what a lot of women talk about is what they've survived.
Oh.
And that's what they want to be seen for. They want that to be seen.
Mm.
And
Wow.
it's very touching for me. It's sad for me in a way. And of course, you allow whatever is there. But I
Hmm.
have noticed that. And it's important to bring ritual to completions and beginnings.
Yes.
So
Rites of
that kind of
passage.
acknowledgement and request to be seen, I see as very ceremonial.
Yeah.
And then we work with this queen archetype, and we look at where is the queen alive in us now, and
Mm.
where and what do I aspire to? And not like I'm selling, this is a way to be. But it's an archetype, and it's something
Yeah.
where it lives in the collective unconscious, and it's available to us. And there are people who embody aspects of that. And how do I bring more of that? And that's where we bring some of the practices of positive psychology in to begin to repattern ourselves in ways that will serve us in the future.
Yeah.
And
Beautiful.
and then we do some co-creation and visioning, and it's quite beautiful. It's quite magical. Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. Great. Well, if anyone is interested, they can reach out to you in the private messages or tag you in a post in our community. And any final thoughts before we wrap up for today?
I love talking with you, actually, Dawn. It's really fun. It's lovely to be so simpatico with someone that you've not met in person.
Yeah.
And I'm appreciating the community a lot. I actually turned to
Good.
the community in the spring, when somehow or other I ended up on your mailing list. And I was really very intrigued. I did watch most of the interviews in your Return of the Priestess. And so it's a beautiful community. I'm delighted to be part of it.
Oh,
And I'm
thank
just
you.
getting started.
Thank you. And again, thank you so much for taking the time joining us here today and for your work in the world or your facilitation and presence, inviting women into being.
Thank you, Don.
Yeah. And thank you, everyone, for being with us. Stay tuned for the next interview and really appreciate all of you here. And bye for now.